Arkana the Magician. Now let's watch as he makes his leg disappear. Hello everybody, and welcome back to more of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dynasty Series Battle City deck profiles. It's me, Cooper, and today we're going to be talking about the Magician Master, Arkana. And he really is the Magician Master because we're about to talk about his ace monster, the Red Dark Magician, which is just a straight up Dark Magician but with better card art. This is my favorite card art for the Dark Magician, and the Dark Magician is the perfect staple card to have in your deck at a 2500 beater. And I know staples are usually like, oh no, you gotta run an MST, you gotta run a Solemn Judgment, you gotta run a, I don't know, I actually don't know, I'm not used to new Yu-Gi-Oh! But back in the day when you need a 2 tribute monster, you get yourself a Dark Magician, he'll do the job. And in Battle City, he definitely does do the job. But let's get into Arkana's rare cards, which he has a million of them, but we're only going to talk about 2 right now. And his 2 rarest cards are the Dark Magic Curtain and the Dark Renewal. These are 2 extremely busted cards. Dark Magic Curtain, what it does is you can pay half your life points, and you could special summon a Dark Magician from your deck. You can't normal summon the turn you do this, but you are allowed to set a card if you want. But this is incredible. The fact that he can bring out his boss monster instantly in 1 turn from his deck, even if it does cost half his life points, 2500 damage immediately is super freaking good. And his Dark Renewal is even better support. What it does is that when your opponent normal or special summons a monster or monsters, target one of those monsters and special summon one spellcaster you control, and then send both to the graveyard. Then you could special summon 1 dark spellcaster from your deck or graveyard. In other words, you're going to get another Dark Magician. You just have to have a spellcaster on your side of the field as well. Doesn't have to be face up, just a spellcaster on your side of the field, which he has a lot of. So these are Arkana's rare cards. They are all about getting out the Dark Magician, and he could totally win duels with this 2500 beater Dark Magician. It is super good. Now, getting into Arkana's stats, we're going to start off with his attack stat, which is average. It's he hits the average, and the only reason he hits the average is because of Dark Magician. The rest of his monsters are below average. Dark Magician is the average is the only reason why he hits the average. His other monsters are the Illusionary Gentleman and Malice Doll of Demise. These 2 cards are his best attacking monsters in his deck at 15 and 16 respectively. The other cards in his deck, not so much. They're not very good. But these 2 are decent. They're below average, but they can actually still do work. But it's okay because his Dark Magician is all he really needs, and he has plenty of ways to summon it, so he'll be just fine. His attack stat's not what's important about Arkana. In fact, let's get into his defense stat, which is also not important. I'm sorry, his defense stat is not very good. His Dark Magician is a pretty good defender at 2100. His Malice Doll that we just talked about is pretty good at 1700. It is above average. His Illusionary Gentleman is really good at 1600 as well. It is above the 1600. It is above the average. That is really good. But he also has a monster that hits the average that we're going to talk about more in the speed section, which we're going to skip to the speed section because you guys can see that defense stat. Most of his monsters are ass. But it's not the worst stat in the world. It's just most are ass. He's just barely below average. Arkana's speed stat is freaking credible. This man almost had the highest speed stat in the game. He is literally neck and neck with other characters in this series. It is incredible. His stats are beautiful. And the reason his speed stat is not stats, sorry. His speed stat's beautiful, the rest of them not so much. The reason his speed stat's beautiful is because his rare cards, Dark Magic Curtain and Dark Renewal. Also, his Malice Doll is a special summoner as well, so that can add to his speed stat. But more important than that are his Mystic Tomatoes. That is correct. He is the user of Mystic Tomato, which lets him special summon 1 dark monster with 1500 or less attack when it gets destroyed by battle. Really freaking good effect, a really good searcher. It's so freaking helpful. Or I guess, what do they call these cards? Floater? I don't know. Whatever they are, they're just really good. And This can help him get another one of his fast cards, a card that actually has average defense and bad attack, but it's not the worst. His Legion the Fiend Jester, a card he used in the anime that took a while for it to become a real card, but now it is a real card, and it has an interesting effect. Now, even though his effect does not technically add to a special summoning stat, which would be his speed stat, it actually increases your normal summons. You contribute one extra monster, which is part of the speed stat, and that is really good. So, what it does, during your main phase, as long as this card is face up, you contribute one spellcaster monster in face up attack position in addition to your normal summon. So if this card is face up, let's say your Mystic Tomato got destroyed and main phase 2, you summon Legion the Fiend Jester, it is your turn now. Your Legion the Fiend Jester is face up, you summon Illusionary Gentleman, then you are allowed to normal summon again a Dark Magician from your hand if you tribute Legion and the Illusionary Gentleman, or anybody else. You're just allowed to tribute summon again. It is freaking incredible. But that's not even the best part. The best part about this card is that when it leaves the field, that's it. As long as it leaves the field and hits the graveyard, you can add one spellcaster normal monster from your deck to your hand, or from your graveyard to your hand. So if your Dark Magician got destroyed and is sadly in the graveyard, you could put it back in your hand. Or if you need to get a Dark Magician into your hand immediately, you can do it. Or if you just need a monster because you're running out of monsters in your hand, you can get an Illusionary Gentleman, you can get a Sorcerer of the Doomed, you can get a Secretarian of Secrets, you can get a Curtain of the Dark Ones. I'm just listing out all of his spellcasters, because those are all of his normal spellcasters and he has multiple copies, so he'll be able to get them. This man is not going to brick thanks to this. Now, this speed stat also falls into his brick stat, which we'll get to later, but his speed stat is absolutely incredible. So despite the fact that he has average attack, it's easy for him to get out his boss monster, the 2500 attack point Dark Magician, which will beat most people. And that's why we're going to get into his skill stat next, which is actually above average. And the reason it is above average is because Arkana is the master of Ectoplasmer. He is the first person to show off the power of the Ectoplasmer. Probably not the first person, I'm just saying it because he's the only one I remember doing it first. His Ectoplasmer mixes with his Malice Doll of Demise. What it does is that every turn, once per turn at the end phase of each player's turn, they must tribute a face-up monster and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of the tribute monster. Which means that he has a continuous burn card, which will in fact burn him as well, but it will get rid of his opponent's monsters. This burn card works really well with Legion of the Fiend Jester, since when Legion of the Fiend Jester leaves the field, you'll be able to get another card to your hand, so you're constantly searching your deck, getting more cards. Also, it is the perfect combo with Malice Doll of Demise, because when Malice Doll of Demise leaves the field due to a continuous spell card's effect, and Ectoplasmer is a continuous spell card, he is able to be special summoned during your next standby phase, which means you have an infinite summoning monster if you keep tributing it with Ectoplasmer. You will always have a monster to use with Ectoplasmer. Malice Doll of Demise with Ectoplasmer is the perfect combo. His skill stat, in fact, is above average due to this one combo alone. That's not to say he doesn't have other cards that help his skill stat. He does have one very interesting card that he used in the anime that is now a real card called Anti-Magic Arrows. And what that does is that at the start of the battle phase for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, neither player can activate spell or trap cards or their effects. Neither player can activate effects in response to this activation as well. In other words, during the battle phase, his monsters are safe. No spells, no traps, no metamorphs, no Mirror Forces, no Sakuretsu Armors, no nothing. As soon as the battle phase starts, Anti-Magic Arrows, nobody gets spells or traps. It's amazing. His deck is very skillful. His deck is very fast. It's just not very tanky and not very strong. Except for Dark Magician, which is why he gets average attack stat. Dark Magician saved his bacon. Now getting into his brick stat, this should come as no surprise. There's like almost no brick in his deck. The only reason he has a little bit of brick is if he gets Ectoplasmer but doesn't get the Malice Doll or the Legion of the Fiend Jester, it will work against him. It's because he runs Dark Magic Attack and Thousand Knives. That's going to work against him because he's the Dark Magician man. That's why I gave him those cards. And he runs a trap card that is kind of situational called Tragedy. If your opponent enters a face-up monster from attack mode into defense mode, all of your opponent's all of your opponent's defense mode monsters are destroyed. Doesn't matter if they're face-up or face-down. It's actually a pretty interesting card. I like to use it in some of my Dream Clown decks. I don't use it in all of them. I like to use it in some of them. It could just blow up a field if they're all in defense mode, but it's super situational. It will break up your hand most likely and your field. It's not the best card in the world, but it's not the worst either. That's why his brick stat is almost perfect. He has nothing to worry about. You're not going to break up very often with him, thanks to his search and special summoning potential. Arkana is really solid for that. And because of that, we're going to go ahead and get into his potential stat, which is average. He is a solid 2.5. The reason he gets average, his speed stat mixed with his skill stat, they are a great combo. He's able to special summon, he's able to burn, he's able to attack, he's got a Dark Magician. His attack stat is just on the precipice of being good. It's the average, it's great. It's good enough, I mean. Dark Magician, 2500 attack, super solid. It will win him the duel. If it can't win him the duel, he loses the duel. But because he runs Thousand Knives and Dark Magic attack, he can deal with back row, he could deal with monsters, he could deal with back row thanks to anti-magic arrows, making his Dark Magician safe during the battle phase. It's actually super solid. So his whole deck idea is summon the Dark Magician. Once you get Dark Magician out, kill your opponent. If your opponent's stronger than you, Thousand Knives. If your opponent's got back row, Dark Magic attack. That's all you gotta do. Oh, I can't win with Dark Magician. Somehow they killed them all. Dark Renewal, bring them back. Oh god, they're all dead. I'm out of Dark Renewals. Ectoplasmer, win by burn. If you can't win by attack, win by burn. Figure out a way. This man has a chance of winning the tournament. It's going to be very difficult. The person that gets Arkana in the tournament needs to focus on getting the Dark Magician out. If you focus the Dark Magician, if you put your heart into just trusting the Dark Magician to win you the duel, you can do it. But only if you get Arkana. That's going to be it, everybody. I want to thank you all for watching. If you're enjoying this Dynasty series, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.